It's a beautiful day today and we're back reading some more stories about Kevin. Now once again I'm going to read a few posts and then there'll be a compilation after. But yeah guys, so excited for this and I hope you are too. If you're going to watch this episode and then the compilation, you're in for a good time. And with that being said, let's get straight into it. Enjoy guys. Kevin the Inept Felon runs from the police and loses something more than his freedom, and not for the first time. I came across this subreddit and I remembered a story from long ago. I'll have a TLDR at the end. This occurred in 1997. I was a news photographer, video not still, for over 20 years. The majority of that was at a TV station in a large sized city. I'd been at this place less than a year, so I was working weekends. On a Sunday morning I was heading to work, noticing that it rained earlier that morning because of all the puddles and water around. This city was a ghost town on Sundays, so I expected it to be somewhat slow until a reporter came in later to come up with a story. I walked into the newsroom, which at the time was only occupied by the guy running the assignment desk, RK. I was about to take off my jacket and get some more videotapes for my camera when RK told me not to get too comfortable. He had to send me out right away. "What's going on?" I asked. "I'm not sure. Police Watch Command called us and said they had a story." "You're kidding," I said. For context, whoever's working the assignment desk in the morning has a daily ritual of calling up the police and local fire departments to see if anything had happened overnight. If it was a slow night, they would just say no, and we'd move down the list to the next one. If something did happen, they'd let us know then. They never called to say that they had a story for us. RK told me that a police sergeant was waiting for me at an intersection about 4 blocks away. I grabbed some tapes and I drove over there not knowing what to expect. The area I went to was an older part of town that had a few railroad tracks crisscrossing where freight trains would normally pass. The sergeant sees me pull up and he gets out of his car, walking up to me with a smirk on his face. I walked up to him with all of my camera gear and I asked him what's going on. He says, "Let's just start the interview and I'll tell you." Weird, usually I try to get an idea of what's going on before I start an interview, but whatever. I go through the motions of clipping a microphone on his tie, asking him on camera his name and spelling and rank. "Okay," I asked, "what's going on?" And the sergeant proceeds to tell me the tale of Kevin, the Inept Felon. Earlier that morning, Kevin had been driving around looking for somebody to rob to support whatever bad habit that he had at the time. It was an older part of town, but still had some nice homes in it, so not a bad neighborhood at all. After a while, he finally spotted 3 men walking down the sidewalk. He parked his car and then ran up to them. He had a metal tool in the pocket of his jacket. I think it was part of an old steering wheel club that he was pointing at them through his pocket to make it seem like he was armed, and told them that he wanted their cash. Judging by his appearance, they thought he was homeless and started digging around for any loose change. The first guy didn't have anything. The second had a 10 spot. Kevin realized that he wasn't making himself clear, so he motioned with his quote-unquote gun at them to let them know that he meant business. The third guy finally clued in on what was going on, so he pulled out his very real gun and pointed it at Kevin. As I was being told this story, I imagine Kevin's eyes bugging out of his head like Looney Tunes at this point. Realizing that he's outgunned, Kevin pulls out his gun and takes a couple of swings at the men before sprinting back to his car. The men manage to get a plate number before he drives off. They call the police with the plate and a description of Kevin. The car comes back as stolen and the police put out a bolo for Kevin and the car, which I think means be on the lookout. A patrol officer in the area heard it and thought it sounded like Kevin. Since he was a frequent flyer in the back of cop cars, he decided to head down to a popular park downtown that was frequented by criminals, druggies and other riffraff. Upon approaching the park, he sees parked along the curb the vehicle in question, and there's Kevin standing next to it talking to some of his near-to-well friends. Kevin notices the cop approaching and makes a beeline for his ill-gotten car. They start a short chase around downtown. Fortunately, since it was Sunday morning, downtown was deserted. They eventually end up at the place where I'm conducting the interview. Unfortunately for Kevin, there is a slow-moving train going through the intersection and blocking his escape. Kevin, in his infinite wisdom, decides that the train is moving slow enough that he could easily jump in between the cars and get away. Believing that he has enough of a lead on the cop, he abandons his vehicle and runs for the train. At the beginning of this story, I said I had noticed it had rained earlier in the morning. Apparently, Kevin didn't notice. As the pursuing officer was stopping his vehicle, Kevin was jumping in between 2 train cars, slipped on a wet coupling, flopped onto the street under the train. Oh my god, and gets his leg cut off above the knee. Whoa! Oh my god, that's unbelievable! The cop stopped in his tracks and spun around and reached into his patrol car to grab a fistful of the oversized zip ties, the same ones police were using at the time as flex cuffs. He ran over to Kevin and made a tourniquet with them around what was left of his thigh. He called it in and an ambulance and fire truck showed up to stabilize Kevin and haul him off to the hospital. After the sergeant I'm interviewing finished his tale, I'm just standing there in a dead stare with my mouth open. After he confirmed that he wasn't joking about the story, I asked him a couple of follow-up questions and unclipped the mic. I let him know that I didn't need him anymore if he needs to go. And I asked him where exactly it happened. He points to the tracks ahead of us about 30 feet. I asked him if it was still bloody up there and he said no. The fire department hosed away everything. I thank him for his time and I get to work getting some B-roll. After shooting for a minute and wondering exactly where it happened, I noticed a bit of leg meat wedged in between the street and the train track that the fire department had missed. I got what I needed there and I headed to the park where the officer spotted him and into the neighborhood where he tried to hold up the 3 guys to get some additional video. I make it back to the station where RK asked me how it went. I sit down and tell him the tale of Kevin the Inept Felon. His reaction is the same as mine. We both laughed about it for a minute and he tells me about the next story I need to shoot. The rest of the day is rather slow. So slow that I'm told that the story about Kevin is the lead for the 5 p.m. news. Back then, after we shot a story, we just handed it off to an editor, and that was the last I heard about it until it was news time. I eventually go back to the train tracks to meet up with the reporter for the live shots. We talked briefly about the shot that he wants for the background and chuckle about Kevin's misfortune. 5 o'clock hits and the anchor in the newsroom throws it to the reporter. He gives a brief intro about Kevin's adventure and throws it into the package. Pre-recorded story with the reporter's voice track on top of interviews and video. I listen to it in my earpiece, waiting to cue the reporter when they throw it back to him on camera. Since someone else edited the story, I missed out on one last bit of information. The reporter explains on camera that this was not the first time that Kevin's own actions resulted in an injury. 2 years earlier, Kevin and another man got into a physical argument involving a shotgun. They were trying to wrestle it from one another until the muzzle gets pointed downward, and blammo, Kevin blows his foot right off. As the reporter says this over the air, I start saying, "What?" Halfway through, I instinctively slap my hand over my mouth. I never did go back to look at the air check, but I'm sure it made it on the air. He throws it back to the newsroom and the director clears us. My reporter starts taking off his mic and earpiece and notices I'm just staring at him with my mouth open once again. "What?" he asks me. "Let me get this straight," I say. "So not only is this guy, through his own fault, missing his leg, but now he doesn't have any feet?" "Yep," he says. "Some people's kids." Wow, that was such an adventure. That had everything. That was funny, but it was also sad at the same time. Yeah, Kevin, buddy, what are you doing? That's so horrific and awful, and I hope they're okay. But obviously, they were not helping their situation. Like, that's an awful consequence of their actions. But yeah, that was unbelievable to read. I can't even imagine being the OP of this. Yeah, wow, that was amazing. The next one is called Chemistry Student Outs Himself. Most Kevin stories involving chemistry labs are more spectacular than this one, but also harder to explain. As a chemistry grad student at a moderately prestigious university, I, like most of my colleagues, spent a few hours a week as a lab TA for the first year students. I preferred doing the lab for students who were taking the enriched course. This gave a bit more depth than the regular course and was intended for the students who had a real interest in the subject. Unfortunately, a lot of students were really just after a flashy item on their transcript towards getting into something like medical school. They tended to think they deserved a good grade because 1, they were at a moderately prestigious university, and 2, they were taking the enriched course and they were expecting to go to med school. To quote one, "I don't need to cheat, I'm a med student at this university." This despite having been caught red-handed and not yet being anywhere near med school. By any standard, a lot of these kids were pretty mediocre at best. One such student tried to hand a lab report in late, despite them having been told that the deadline was inflexible. Late report equals no report. He claimed that he'd been granted permission by the lab coordinator. I checked with her to be sure, and to my lack of surprise, was told that that was BS. I chucked it back to the guy with a big fat 0 written in red pen on the front page, and a warning not to try anything like that again. But this guy seemed to be more than usually clueless. A few weeks after that, the students were working on a module on shapes and symmetry of molecules. They were building models using chemical tinker toys, balls and sticks to represent atoms and bonds. They were supposed to be learning about 3-dimensional structures, comparing them to their mirror images and seeing what happened if parts were rotated. Because some people have trouble understanding these concepts, the students were allowed to work in larger groups than their usual lab partner pairs, but this guy was by himself and appeared to just be sticking the balls and sticks together randomly, playing with the tinker toys rather than working on the module. It would have been okay if he'd been doing something related to chemical structures. I would have encouraged creative thinking about the subject, but this was just kindergarten sort of playing, so I thought I'd gently encourage him to get back on track. I came up to him, I peered at his ball and stick structure, looked pointedly at his open lab manual, looked again at his tinker toys, then looked him in the eyes and asked, "So what are you on?" He anxiously snapped back, "Nothing." I paused for a couple of seconds, blinking, reprocessing the situation, and then asked, "What exercise are you on?" "Oh, exercise 3. I just looked at him and shook my head and then walked away. A couple of weeks after that, he he disappeared from my lab section. I never saw him again. I hope he didn't get into med school. Well, what are you on? Oh, nothing, definitely nothing. What do you mean? Are you accusing me of being on something? Oh, what exercise am I on? That makes sense. The next one says, Kevin doesn't know what urinals are. I have a friend who's a retired cleaning lady. She used to clean at a university campus. She often tells me a story about a Kevina that she trained once. When Kevina went to clean the men's bathroom, she didn't know what urinals were, and she thought they were a device for cleaning hair. Wow. This Kevin eventually ended up being fired, but I'm not clear on the details of why. Well, hopefully they didn't try and clean their hair. Yeah, right, okay. That's so interesting. They thought urinals were for cleaning your hair? Like the word urinal meant something different? Or did they literally think the physical urinals in the bathroom were gonna clean hair? I feel like this one's more interesting than anything. Like, how does that even happen? How do you go your entire life without realizing what a urinal is? Yeah, this is such a beautiful subreddit. And on that note, I'm gonna start the compilation, guys. I hope you enjoyed that little adventure today, and if you're gonna watch the compilation, I hope you enjoyed that too. And yeah, guys, thank you for all your support as always. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And I'm not gonna say goodbye, but what I am gonna say is enjoy the compilation. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Kevin thinks he can speak every language in the world. I used to work with a guy named Kevin who was convinced that he could speak every language in the world. He was always bragging about how he could converse with anyone in their native tongue, no matter where they were from. One day we were at a work event and a group of foreign colleagues came to visit. Kevin immediately jumped up and started speaking to them in what he said was their language, but the look of confusion on their faces told a different story. It turned out that Kevin had just been speaking gibberish, mixing random words together and sounds together in a bizarre attempt to speak their language. He had no idea what he was saying, but he was convinced that he was impressing them. Oh my god, that's hilarious. To make matters worse, Kevin started insisting that the foreigners were the ones who didn't understand their own language. He even tried to correct them on their pronunciation and grammar. Needless to say, the rest of us were cringing and trying to distance ourselves from Kevin's embarrassing behavior. It was hard to believe that someone could be so clueless and yet so confident at the same time. From then on, Kevin's delusions of linguistic grandeur became a running joke among our team, but we also learned to be more careful about taking him at his word when it came to anything else. Yeah, like, can you believe anything they say? Oh yeah, I can speak pretty much any language ever. I can talk to anybody on the planet. I can't even imagine how embarrassing that would have been, but at the same time, so funny. But yeah, how can you be so wrong and so confident? It's kind of impressive. Kevin bombs the guaranteed job interview with a stupid answer. I've been watching many videos about Kevins and I had to share this one. Back in the mid-90s, my mother decided to date a Kevin, a former alcoholic and not the brightest bulb in the box. This Kevin had some really weird traits. One, he bought a used car a few days before a 1,400-kilometer road trip and didn't check it out before we left. The engine blew up halfway to our destination. Our trip was a week longer and he lost his job because he couldn't get back in time. Number two, after they split, thank God, he basically only wanted one thing from our apartment. Not clothes, not his personal goods, but a piece of bologna. Sorry, but I don't understand how the word bologna is bologna when talking about food. And number three, this is the kicker. Friends of my mother got him into a job at a pulp mill. He had the damn job, but then the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years, came up. He said, I want to be a gynecologist. It was no surprise that he didn't get the job, but he didn't understand why. I hope this old story makes a few of you laugh. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Definitely not working here, that's for sure. At least they're being honest, I suppose. Kevin gives $100,000 checks to a random employee of the subcontractor. So my mum does work for a construction company. She has this worker, Kevin. She has dozens of stories about this guy, and her other co-workers also have dozens of stories. There's miles upon miles of dirt on this guy. Kevin, as my mum likes to put it, is the poster child for undiagnosed ADHD, and my mum actually has ADHD, so she knows what she's talking about. For a few examples, this guy has on one occasion left a check for a subcontractor sitting on his desk for a week, and another time he left one in his pocket and it went through the dryer. He's been told multiple times by everybody in the company to change his behavior, but he always has an excuse and he never changes. So a few days ago, the company was expecting a payment from a client, one check for the company and 3 checks from the client directly to the subcontractors. Well, for some reason, Kevin was the the one who picked up checks from the client. He's not only opened the checks, which are worth well over 100 grand, but when he got to the site, he just gave the checks to the first guy he saw. Here's the thing, before you give it to contractors, they have to sign a waiver. He did not give the client a waiver. The client hadn't even signed anything yet. He just gave these checks to the first guy on the site that he saw and then left. Luckily, my mum was able to email the waiver and the client did sign it, but the boss was fuming. Yeah, but also, it just sounds like they didn't know what to do. Like, did somebody tell them what they had to do? Yeah, like the top comment says, it sounds like they know Kevin can't handle responsibility for financial instruments, but they keep on giving him the responsibility. Kevin's not the only Kevin in this story. Yeah, definitely sounds like it's more than just this Kevin. Kevin loses his banana. Yeah, really? So last night at 2 a.m, I got a call from Donald. He was pissed. I kid you not. He had literally counted his bananas and came up one short. I was at his house the day before and he was pretty sure that I was the thief. First of all, who the hell counts their bananas? And second of all, it is food and people eat food. Why are you mad that a banana is missing? Bananas are like $2 and I know that he has the money to eat. Anyway, I explained to him that I didn't take his banana and I told him to chill out. He has kids and a wife. One of them probably got hungry and was like, hey look, a completely normal banana, which hasn't been counted. I should eat it. He seemed to calm down a little bit and said that he was going to go to bed. So I thought that all was well, but sadly I was wrong. At about noon today, Donald's wife calls me and says that he hasn't talked to her all morning. Oh my god, what? And he won't stop running around the house looking for something, but he won't tell her what it is. Apparently he'd moved the couch 3 times, taken everything out of their refrigerator and put it back, checked under every bed in the house and was now sitting on the out of place couch, looking extremely confused. I still don't know what he would have done if he had found it under the couch. I can just imagine him pulling a smashed ass banana out of the depths of the couch and holding it up for all to see like it was Simba from the Lion King. When I told her that he was looking for a banana, she thought I was joking. It turns out that the night before she'd eaten one thinking that it wouldn't cause any problems. Yeah, as you do. And now Donald keeps complaining to me that his wife went behind his back and ate his banana. He needs potassium. How could she do that to him? He feels so betrayed. I guess the moral of the story is do not take Donald's bananas. He counts them. What the hell did we just read? I need the potassium. You cannot touch my bananas. If you're that serious about not losing your bananas, you should probably have a conversation about this. Like, hey everybody, if you eat my bananas, I'm gonna completely lose my mind. So please don't eat my bananas. Kevina thought the Doggy Daycare was a restaurant. So I work at a doggy daycare. Next door is a seafood restaurant. Don't know why people eat there. Their food isn't all that great, but that's not the point. Bear in mind that we have pet-themed decor everywhere, and the dogs that we work with are always barking. It was lunch hour for us. I'd brought mine, so I was the only person in the building when Kevina came in. The conversation went like this. Her, hi, I need a table for 2. Me, ma'am, the restaurant is next door. Her, I said I need a table for 2. Ma'am, this is a doggy daycare. The restaurant is next door. Pause. She left a few seconds later mumbling something under her breath. Because of the dogs barking and my auditory processing disorder, I don't know what she said. It was just kind of weird that she didn't register all the signs saying that we aren't a restaurant. Yeah, and also you saying that you aren't a restaurant. Like, I don't have any tables, okay? I can't give you a table for 2. Do you want a tick bath or something? I don't understand. But yeah, with all that being said, I feel like I'd probably do something like this. Like, depending on what sort of mood they were in or if they were paying any attention and you were like completely zoned out, I feel like you could probably do this. But I feel like at most you'd realize like pretty fast, oh wait a second, this isn't a restaurant. Bye. He wants to DNA test her kids. So I can't even completely wrap my brain around this, Kevin. But when my friend Sage told me about this story, I just had to get her permission to post it here. She gave it to me, so here we go. Fair warning, I fear the number of IQ points that may be lost in reading this. Sage started dating Kevin about 2 years before this incident. Things seemed to be going all right between them. She told me that he was a bit of a derp and sometimes incredibly oblivious to some things. He couldn't pick up on subtle cues and even suggestions flew right over his head with about a mile of airspace between his skull and the suggestion. So originally chalked it up to him being on the autism spectrum, as she has a few other friends who have similar problems picking up cues. So she switched her behavior from talking to neurotypical to talking to neurodivergent, and the bumps did sort of smooth out for a while. All is well and good. And then the talk of taking the relationship seriously came up, marriage, becoming a family, and that's when the plane hit the mountain with a cartoonish bang. Kevin announced that he wanted to DNA test Sage's kids to to make sure that they were his. Kids who were 5 and 3 when Sage and Kevin started dating. What? No way! Sage said that she had to come to a full stop in the conversation for several seconds while her brain rebooted. Sage, they're not your kids. You know they're not. My ex-husband and I had them together before I ever even met you. She'd still been pregnant with the youngest when she and her ex finalized the divorce. And that's a whole other story. Yeah, and now we're getting married. They'll become mine. I just want to DNA test them to be sure of it. What? Oh no, I shouldn't laugh, but oh my god. What do you mean? Sage, let me see if I understand this. Do you actually think my children's DNA is gonna change to become biologically yours when you adopt them? Kevin, well, obviously, I just want the confirmation on paper is all. I'm so happy that we're reading this. Insert that that's not how this works, that's not how any of this works meme here. There was a long conversation about how DNA didn't work that way, with his rebuttal that adopting them would make them become his, and then there had to be a conversation that becoming his children would only happen on paper and in the legal system. That no, the children would not magically transform into his own children. Him insisting that everybody said the kids become theirs once adoption happened. Her explaining the concept of adopted children are loved just as much as if they were biological, and that was what they meant. Him insisting that everything pointed to kids becoming theirs. His mum eventually had to become involved to back Sage up. His dad even had to become involved to back Sage up. Even a few books had to get involved to back Sage up. Kevin was furious. He couldn't understand why people would ever adopt a kid if the kid didn't become the actual biological child of the people who took them in. How stupid and selfish it was that kids retain the DNA of the sperm and egg donor. Oh yeah, how selfish of the kids. How could any kid who wanted to be adopted refuse to change one little thing so they could have parents? DNA doesn't work that way is a BS excuse. He ranted, he raved, and right in front of his own parents, he told her that if the kids weren't going to become his kids, then the marriage wasn't going to happen. He told her that he would give them all a week to change their minds and agree to be... What is going on? He told her that he would give them all a week to change their minds and agree to be his biological kids. He said when they stopped being selfish and when the DNA test proved it, he would take the kids in, Sage said to me, and that's how the relationship ended. Me, wait, hang on. Was he just looking for an excuse to break it off? Did he get cold feet or want to date around some more, or... Sage said nope, he really is just that stupid. His mum called me on the sly and very gently suggested that I just break it off with Kevin, because no matter how much she and his dad talk to him, he's adamant about it. He's even saying that he will never date a woman with kids from here on out unless they agree to change their DNA to become his, if the relationship becomes serious. So Sage is single again, having dodged a tactical nuke. God help everyone if he ever breeds. That could be the most ridiculous and funny thing we've ever read on this channel. You must agree to become my biological children. So selfish that the children won't become my biological children. Do you think they realized, or do you think they're gonna have this opinion forever? Surely one day they're gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe how stupid I've been. Kevin sent someone to the hospital. So I have a friend who's kind of a Kevin. He's super nice, a really good person, but he can definitely be a Kevin. He once nearly burned his apartment down because he made a fire in the fireplace, like a gas fire or something, and they tried to actually burn something in it. Nah. He also likes to play pranks. Not unfunny mean pranks, but fun light-hearted pranks, like putting onion powder on hostess donuts and then giving us them, or giving us water that has lime juice in it. That's not a prank, is it? A little while ago, me and some other friends were at Kevin's house for some video games. On the coffee table, there's a bowl of Skittles. Seems innocent enough, right? Well, Kevin decided it would be fun to mix M&Ms into the bowl. Just a fun little joke, right? Well, one of my friends is allergic to peanuts, and Kevin's favorite ones are the peanut M&Ms. Kevin forgot she was allergic as it hasn't come up super often. Long story short, but before we know it, the M&Ms are mixed into the bowl. That friend eats a handful and goes into anaphylactic shock. They ended up going to the hospital. Kevin has since apologized profusely. He was so upset at himself for this, and he's helping to pay for the medical bills as an apology. So yeah, yeah, I guess the moral is don't pull food pranks on people with allergies. Yeah, but are they even a Kevin for this? And also, peanut M&Ms are so much bigger than Skittles, and they're also way bigger than normal M&Ms. And by how sorry they are, it's obviously an honest mistake. Surely, right? Kevina gets her paycheck ripped from her hands. Kevina, 27 female, is in the same online hobby community as me. It's a small community, so word gets around fast. I woke up to a post of her asking for donations because the state royally screwed her over, and she was down $71 in the hole. Of course, courtesy of her public Instagram post the day before, we know what actually happened. Kevina had started a new job and she got a paycheck of $400 earlier than she expected, and it was in someone else's name. She cashed it anyway and spent it on anime merchandise, phone bills, etc. And then this week she got her actual first paycheck as well as another paycheck for the other person. She decides to tell her boss about this and the last paycheck, and is surprised when the funds are reversed out of her account. Even her parents said that she shouldn't have spent somebody else's money, and she still says that she shouldn't have been punished for telling the truth, or that the funds shouldn't have been removed all at once. I got my paycheck ripped from my hands and I want to go home. Girl, it wasn't your paycheck. The part that makes this double stupid is that she openly posted all of this and still wants people to donate to her since she believes it wasn't her fault. What did she expect to happen? Edit, apparently she blamed the state because she works for the state government, which makes this story worse on many levels. Yeah, what did they expect? It's not your money. That's so funny. Like, oh no, this paycheck that isn't mine, I spent it and now they took the money back? No. Why would they do such a thing? Kevin doesn't understand ovens, so I was friends with this dude for a couple of years. Originally, he wanted to date me, but I declined and he was cool with it. Eventually, he got a date with another girl and wanted to practice making her dinner. He'd never really cooked before, so he asked me to give him a recipe. I proceeded to give him a very detailed recipe so that he would have less of a chance of majorly messing things up. The night that he decided to first attempt the recipe, he texted me telling me that he burnt the hell out of his hand by roasting a head of garlic in the oven. Kevin goes on to tell me that he burnt the hell out of his hand when he removed the garlic from the oven. It turns out that he'd just reach into the oven and pull the bulb of garlic out barehanded. When I asked him why the hell he did this, he responded, "You didn't tell me the garlic would be hot." What? How do you go your whole life without being told or learning that an oven cooks stuff? My ex-coworker Kevin, so I, female 18, started working at a local grocery store when I was 17. I had a coworker who seemed, well, different. He was a customer service clerk, so his job included pushing carts from the parking lot into the entrance of the store, running price checks, doing go-backs, facing shelves, easy stuff. After 2 days of working there was when I realized he was a full-blown Kevin. Here are just some of the things that he's done within the 5 months that I've known him. Keep in mind, he was 20. I'm a recent immigrant from Germany and have a thick accent, and he would constantly deny Germany's existence. What? And tell me to stop talking funny. I even proved to him with a map that Germany is real, and I showed him my birth certificate, and he proceeds to tell me that I was lying and Germany does not exist. Even with solid concrete evidence, he still stood by his claims that Germany is make-believe. That's unbelievable. What? What do you mean you don't think Germany's real? Why would you even think that? The limit on how many carts you can push at once here is 10. Kevin decides to push 60 at once. Guess who fractured his wrist and denies pushing that many carts even though it was caught on 4 different cameras. He'd climb onto the roof of the bus stop outside of the store while in full uniform on company time catcalling customers. This was a multiple times a day occurrence. We had a coworker with a Taiwanese ancestry. He would constantly call her, "Oh God," and pull the corner of his eyes whenever he'd walk by her. There's no way they're still working there, right? Her name was Alice and she was not amused. He thought it was hilarious until a customer reported him. Not the first time and not the last. He left $50 unattended in the break room and of course it got stolen, so he decided to interview every single staff member, Sherlock Holmes style, with alibis and all. He even interviewed the ones not working that day, and when he couldn't figure out who stole his money, he asked me to give him $50. I asked him why he asked me to give him money and he said, "Because it's something you would do." I've never once given this man money and I never plan to. How did they even get this job in the first place? In the middle of a crowded grocery store, he screamed, "I'm having my period," and sprayed Gatorade all over the floor. Maintenance made him clean it up. He would always steal people's lunch, even if they had it in a personal lunch bag or in the fridge with their name on it. Okay, and it's getting infuriating. He denied everyone who called him out and blamed other people, even while he was caught in the act of wolfing down someone else's lunch. lunch. I once brought a sandwich with wet cat food in it just to get him to stop. I came back to the break room on my lunch to find he ate the whole thing. What? I knew it was him because no one else's breath smelled of Purina for the rest of the day. He locked himself in the freezer twice. Yeah, but like, what are they even doing working here at this point? Every time we'd give him a go back, something a customer decides they don't want anymore at the checkout, he'd either drop it or break it or get lost trying to find its proper place. Many times that he worked a closing shift, he would forget to lock the door on time, keeping all of us cashiers stuck dealing with customers 10 to 15 minutes past closing time before someone reminds him to lock the door. Every time someone would call him on his work phone, he would end the call with "love you, bye." Even customers. This discontinued after the boss called him. He burped loudly over the PA. This is so frustrating. He would moan really loudly in people's ears while in public. He was constantly late for his shifts, making up excuses such as "I forgot that I worked today" or "at this time." He climbed a shelf and when it fell over, he played the victim and pretended he was walking by it when it fell on him. He constantly called the boss mum by accident. He peed his pants 4 times. He would randomly draw cash from his bank account and hand out money to young kids in the parking lot, and cried when his bank account got suspended for drawing too much in too little time. He lost his shoes in the middle of a shift. He went into the produce department and stole an apple and ate it. When he got caught on video, he denied that it was him. That was the last straw that ultimately got him fired. After that, he confessed his undying love for me. I turned him down and he took a hissy fit and got kicked out of the store. He's not allowed on the property. What? Oh my god, I can't believe we just read that. Yeah, like this comment says, sexual and racial harassment were okay, but stealing an apple was just too much. Wow, what a way to start the video. The next one is called The Saga of the Deli Dumbass. For the past couple of years, I've been working at a local supermarket. Not a high paying job, but I'm not too worried about money at the moment. After finishing senior year of high school, being 18, I was given the opportunity to work in the deli. Overall, it was a change of pace and meant better pay, so I jumped at the opportunity. My first week went well. I joined up at the same time as another guy who was also pretty good at the job. Then 1 week into the job, another employee joined up. Kevin was an interesting guy right from the start. On day 1 of the job, he was half an hour late getting back from his 15-minute break because he needed to finish his cigarettes. Not much of a big deal, but it was annoying, and things went downhill from there. For 3 months, I dealt with the guy. I was still very new and trying to learn the ropes, but working with him made me look like a seasoned veteran of the culinary arts. Here's the most complete list of his stupid actions that I can offer up. Overflowed the sinks on a daily basis. Kevin was put on dish duty on multiple occasions. Every time it went down the same way. He turned the sinks on and watched them fill up, nothing else. He didn't run dishes under the flowing water. He just sat there staring at it. This increased focus didn't help him either because every single time he filled those sinks half a centimeter below capacity and then put a big pile of dishes in, pushing the water past the limit. He ruined the rotisserie oven mitts. Kevin also hated putting his hands in the water after he filled the sink. Reaching to the bottom to pull the plug was something that he just couldn't do. This was an understandable situation. I don't like doing that either, but we had a pair of rubber gloves by the sink for anybody that felt this way. Kevin preferred to grab the oven mitts for the rotisserie. These oven mitts were thick rubber gloves that had foam inside. Because the sink was so overflowed, however, when he did this, he soaked the gloves inside and out. Foam doesn't dry quickly, and this also became a repeat occurrence too, so we had to resort to hiding them in the bakery section of the store. This didn't stop him from looking for them every time he overflowed the sinks though. Dark web deli. Kevin also worked really slow. Seriously, the guy took 40 minutes to do a 5-minute job. Flipping meat is simple. Pull the tray, put lunch meat on a new tray, put back in the case, repeat 7 more times. He realized that he wasn't good at it, so he chose to look up better meat flipping tactics on the internet, and when that failed, he chose to look for, and I'm not kidding you, forbidden tactics off the dark web. As I said earlier, there is one tactic. You pull the tray, you put the meat on the new tray, and you put the tray in the case. But if he wants to look up criminal deli tactics, who am I to stop him? And then we have minor incidents. Offered to tape my tortilla wraps back together after I cut them in half to fit in the container. Wait a second. They were going to tape up tortillas. Took 5 hours to cut a small bag of broccoli. Still didn't cut it small enough. Didn't give up the search for the rotisserie oven mitts even after 2 months trying. Didn't shut a big bag of shredded cheese, which ruined the entire bag. Also, he didn't label whatever meat or cheese he cut properly, so that had to get thrown out too. Whenever we asked him to speed up his work a little bit, he got defensive. After one of his 5-hour sessions cutting broccoli got to be too much for our cook in the back. He asked Kevin to speed up a bit. Kevin proceeded to walk into the back and for 15 minutes straight just kept asking, how do I work faster, huh? How do I work faster? Dumped chicken grease down the sink on 2 occasions. This is pretty much when everybody gave up hope on the guy. For anybody who doesn't know, chicken grease turns into a jelly when left out. Imagine what that does when it's in a pipe. Despite all of these incidents, he claimed to have been a professional working delis for over 10 years. He also said that he had nothing wrong with him in the head. Towards the end of his time with us came the hot case incident. Kevin was dishing out food to some customers from the hot case, but rather than grab metal silverware from the drawer next to it, he grabbed a plastic spoon from the back that we'd normally use in the cold case. Our cook asked him a rhetorical question: what happens when you put plastic in the hot case? Kevin, in a moment of Kevin intelligence, revealed that he didn't know. He spent 30 minutes trying to guess, however. Good on you, Kevin. Show them that intelligence. The next day I wasn't working, but I wish to God that I was. Kevin revealed that he had done some research into what happens when you put plastic in the hot case. Somehow his research brought him to one conclusion: plastic, when left in a hot case for too long, turns to metal. This wasn't just a throwaway comment. He kept this going. He and our cook went back and forth in this conversation, which led to an argument, and eventually the two had to be separated because everybody else working the deli that day was almost certain that the two were going to throw hands. We still can't figure out what led him to think that heating plastic would turn it to metal, but at this point, this part of the story gives us so many laughs, so we just don't care. Around the end of the summer, I was just about to start college. I was 1 week away when I went in for another Kevin shift, only this time I found out that he'd been no call, no show for 3 days straight. As a result, management considered it quitting and pulled his name off the schedule. That last week, working shifts without him, we got more done than if he had been working. In the end, Kevin faded away to a simple bad memory. Despite this, we all still laugh whenever somebody asks the question, what happens when you put plastic in the hot case? And wherever Kevin went next, I hope he's gotten a better handle on things, and I thank him for giving me this story. Wow, that was so fun. And yeah, hopefully Kevin is out there somewhere having a good time. That was such an adventure. Imagine going on the dark web and searching that. Forbidden deli tactics off the dark web. Yeah, that's amazing. The next one is called My Coworker Kevin, Drywall, Defamation and Ding Dong Pictures. Note, the Kevin in this story is actually named Kevin. Make of that what you will. I, 18 male, worked my summer job this year at a hardware store in the Midwest USA. It's a smaller franchised hardware store, not a giant one like Lowe's or Home Depot, so the owner has a bit more freedom to do what they want. In this case, Kevin is the store owner's son, and the owner probably illegally hired Kevin for $18 an hour, significantly more than what we make, and as I'll show you below, he definitely didn't deserve such a wage. There were 3 main tasks that summer job teenagers like myself and Kevin had: cashier duties, sales, and stocking shelves. Kevin did okay, barring a few minor incidents with stocking shelves, but the other 2 were chaos. On my first day, I was working with Kevin and a friend of mine from school. We'll call him Jake. Then there were 2 full-time employees staffing the store, an old guy, let's call him Walter, and an even older woman, the store manager, who will be named Edith. These are the best old people names I've got. Kevin had cashier duty, Jake had sales, and I had shelf stocking, and Walter was the second cashier. Kevin, welcome. Me and Jake got started on our respective tasks for our first day, and did everything pretty much by the book until around 11 AM. We'd been open for a couple of hours when Kevin sauntered in, but nobody had really noticed him missing since Jake and I didn't know he existed yet, and Walter barely had anyone to serve as cashier anyway, so Kevin wasn't really needed. But soon he strolled up to me and Jake while we were in an aisle and said, "So, we've got some fresh meat," in the most ridiculous movie bully voice ever. We laughed at him and he walked off to the cashier station huffing and puffing, and then he turned around and yelled back, "Show me some respect, rookies." About 5 seconds later, Kevin walks into a shelf and shrieks in pain. He goes up to the cashier station about 10 minutes later and he gets a customer. Now, I didn't see the initial incident, but I sure heard it. Someone was buying some lawn decorations, one of which was a giant glass ball in the shape of a frog. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Kevin dropped it and smashed it and then refused to refund the customer, a little old lady. By now, Walter had got on the intercom and called me up front to open the other lane while they cleaned up. I ran up front and saw the crap show unfolding. Rather than help Walter, who's on his hands and knees picking up tiny glass shards, he decides to argue with the 90-year-old, yelling at her for buying stupid frog art that looks like an you-know-what bead. I try to keep Walter's lane moving because 3 people were in line, but everyone was watching Kevin berate an old lady at the top of his high, squeaky voice. Walter finally managed to wrest the cashier cashier station keyboard from Kevin and refunds the old woman and apologizes to her for Kevin's actions. About an hour later, I get the chance to ask Walter what the hell is wrong with Kevin. Oh, he's the owner's son. He's worked here for 3 days. It was at this moment I realized it would be a long summer. Mexico will pay for the drywall. Kevin was a conservative. He made sure everyone knew this, starting every second conversation with a political comment. Oh god, that would be so exhausting. So on my second day, I was cashiering, Kevin was in sales and Jake was stocking shelves. Kevin started the day by walking in yelling at the top of his voice that taxes are too high and nobody needs social security because society is already secure. We have cops. No idea why he thought to do this. Kevin decided it would be a good idea to ask a customer who was buying blue paint for their walls at home why they're putting Democrat colors in their house. Oh god. The customer walked out. Edith witnessed this and reprimanded Kevin, but obviously nobody wanted to say anything to the owner's son. Not even 20 minutes have passed with Kevin unsupervised when I walk by to find him switching out every can of blue paint with a red one. At this point, my thought process is that I don't get paid enough to deal with this, and it's not my problem, so I keep walking. Well, Kevin felt slighted at me laughing at him the day before, so he quickly walks out of the aisle, gets on the intercom and yells for Edith. Well, about 10 minutes later, Edith walks up to me and informs me that Kevin blamed the paint thing on me. Edith looked at the cameras and saw that it was clearly Kevin, but she let me know to try to steer clear of Kevin because he liked to make other people feel bad. Hail damage, hail Satan. A few days of blatant stupidity followed the incidents above, but nothing quite as crazy. Kevin put wasp spray in the paint section since he said it was used to paint walls. He also brought a tube of toothpaste from home and jammed it into the cash drawer during a shift change, leaving the drawer open and unattended for over an hour. But things really ramped up again after about a week. There was a forecast for severe storms later in the week, so an older couple both wearing Metallica shirts came in to buy some plastic sheeting and stakes to cover their garden. Kevin was doing sales that day and everything hit the fan. The husband explained that he had tomatoes and wanted to keep them safe from the storm. So Kevin, being who he is, explained to them that if you didn't listen to devil music, God would keep you safe. Well, no way. Try praying once in a while. Well, the customer just didn't find this amusing. The couple walked out and left a cart with $300 in other merchandise. About a week on from the last incident, Kevin got in trouble. I wasn't there this day for doing a Hitler salute, a salute while grabbing his butt. He claimed that it was anti-Nazi, but his dad, the owner, came into the store and let us know that he talked to him about it. Well, Kevin came back the next day, and at this point, me and Jake had just learned to ignore him. But Kevin approaches us during a break and asks without any prior conversation, "Hey, yo, gay slurs." Oh my god, get them out of there. This is awful. We stand there slack-jawed in amazement that he would even ask that, and Jake quickly responds, "No, that's kind of not okay, man." Kevin goes absolutely ballistic. He begins explaining in detail how any man who spends time with another man is gay, and how being gay makes God cry, and Kevin claimed that you did the horizontal mumbo last night and that's why it's raining outside now because God is crying. I really had no words, but Jake did, who told him to go and you know what his cousin in a log cabin, referring to Kevin's love of country music and camo t-shirts. Jake got a call from the boss that night telling him that he'd be fired if he ever spoke that way to his son again. Jake tried explaining what Kevin said, but to no avail. The boss just said that his son had good Christian values. Kevin doesn't understand goats. Kevin developed a weird obsession with goats around the middle of the year. Turns out that he saw a post online that jokingly said that Russian troops were having the horizontal mumbo with goats. So pretty soon, Kevin started printing online art of goat-human hybrids and posting them up in the livestock feed section with the caption, "Warning, no goat sucking," because these ideas logically connect if you're a Kevin, I suppose. Plus, to me, a goat sucker means a desert cryptid, not a practitioner of bestiality, but I guess that's just me. But the goat thing didn't stop there. Oh, no way. He later tried explaining to me that humans are really descendants from goats. His logic for this was that goats are called goats because they decided to go when other animals weren't evolving. Again, I feel insane just writing this out. Duct tape Kevin, vent problem. During the summer, we had an issue where one of the air conditioning vents for the building wasn't working, which made that corner of the store really hot. He came up with the unusually coherent plan to close all of the other vents and try to force air into that vent so we could see if any air was coming through at all. If there was some tiny amount of air, that would mean it was just blocked, not broken. Well, I tell him that this is an okay idea and I have him go do it. But this was Kevin. Would anything be done the simple way? Hell no. Rather than pull the little lever on each side of the vent, he duct taped all 8 other vents shut with 3 whole rolls of duct tape, which he of course took from the shelves without replacing or logging in inventory. He spent the next hour peeling tape from the vents, which was especially hard given that he crazy glued the tape to the vents. Still, the vent problem was still there. We didn't include Kevin in the next brainstorm, and Walter came up with a plan to just shove a garden stake from the outdoor department into the vent and try to dislodge whatever was up there manually. Whatever was up there turned out to be 3 soccer balls. We didn't have a camera in the vent since this is a hardware store, not Freddy Fazbear's. Nonetheless, I have a sneaking suspicion as to who put the 3 soccer balls in the vent, and it ain't Lionel Messi. If I'm being honest, this was way above all of our pay grades, and maybe the real Kevin in this part was his dad. None of us here were HVAC specialists, and still, I'm sure he couldn't afford it considering all the free passes he kept giving his son. Karen versus Kevin. Kevin was bad enough with the normal customers that when we finally got our ultimate Karen, Walter and I just stood around watching the show. This woman walks in 5 minutes after the store opens and buys a gigantic bird bath. This thing is like 4 feet tall and 150 pounds. She needs help to lift it, but Kevin sneers at her and makes me help her, even though he's on sales for the day. Well, she comes through my lane and I ring it up for $2.20, which is the right price as shown on the tag. Karen though insists that it's $30. I ask why and she walks over with me and points to the shelf where a $30 clearance tag is hanging for the bag of bird feeder seed above. I explain to her it's not $30 for the bird bath, but she points to it and says, but the tag is right there. I turn and whisper to Walter and we decide to release the Kevin Kraken. I go back to the line, apologize to the other customers and wave her to go see Kevin, who's standing at the customer service desk. About 15 minutes later, I notice the two are still arguing. At this point, the woman is screaming at him and he's giving it back to her, except he's not talking about the product. He's trying to explain to her that birds don't need to bathe. They have a built-in shower. That's why they're always scratching. Give them hell, Kevin. Karen decides to take her phone out and start recording. And when Kevin keeps telling her that she's a stupid boomer for wanting to give birds what God already gave them, Karen demands to see the manager. Edith walks up and tells Karen to leave. And Karen then finishes the recording by saying that Kevin was defaming her by calling her a stupid boomer and the store would soon be hearing from her lawyers. We actually did. The woman sent a legal threat in the mail. Jake got fired for not helping his co-workers to de-escalate the situation while he was on shelf stocking duty, even though nobody called him to the front. In the boss's opinion, Jake was willfully ignoring Kevin's unspecified intellectual disability. None of us had even been told that he had an intellectual disability, though we'd be the Kevins if we didn't know considering all that he did. The next day would be my last at the store, hardware hard on. The day after the Karen incident, we ran out of metal poles. They're one of our more popular items and we usually just get them in a huge bulk and load 10 or so out onto the shelf at once, so that if they do fall on the floor, it isn't too much to deal with. So I told Kevin to print an out of stock message, assuming that the guy could just go scrape something off Google Images and go put it out there. We of course don't have our own out of stock labels, since Kevin burned them when he set the microwave on fire in the break room, but that's a story for another time. Kevin didn't use Google Images, rather he printed an interesting image. Towards the end of the shift that afternoon, I was walking by the metal section when I saw a strange image on a piece of paper just hanging off the empty shelf. Though I couldn't tell what it was, I walked up closer and I could not believe what I was looking at. On the left of the page was a map of Poland. On the right was a nude photo of Kevin with a boner taken in the employee bathroom. Below the two images was a caption, "Metal poles not found. Try these other poles." What do you mean? I'm just going to present this one without comment. Anyway, I quit that day because Kevin blew up in a rage at me for throwing away the picture, yelling at me because I only threw it away because I hate Polish people. Nothing about, you know, the ding-dong picture. Kevin has called me a total of 67 times since I quit, from 13 phone numbers. Oh my god. I saw this on Facebook. A lady swears that her 3-month-old Pomeranian is going to grow into a black lab because she has papers that say so. So this was actually an image post on Facebook, but I can't post images here, so I'll copy it word for word. I think it counts. True story, a client just called for the price of bath and nails. I asked what kind of dog. She says, I don't know what it is now, but when it grows up, it's going to be a black lab. I was dumbfounded. I asked her how old it was, and she said it was 3 months. So I'm thinking maybe 20 pounds max. So I tell her maybe $20 or $25. I swear to God, the lady brings Red in, and he's a Pomeranian. A Pom. I said, sorry, but this is a Pomeranian. And she tells me, well, I know it's going to be a black lab because I have papers at home. I pulled up pictures of labs and Poms on the computer, and I still think she believes it's going to be a black lab. I'm going home to drink some wine? Yeah, but why? Why would you think that a Pomeranian was going to turn into a black lab? And what could possibly be on these papers that they're talking about? Yeah, like the top comment says, 10 years down the road, she'll still be wondering when her dog is going to grow into a lab. Yeah, it's not going to. Also, I'm hoping that I didn't read this one in an old video that I've made. It did sort of feel a little bit familiar, but at the same time, I'm not sure. Kevina insists that she met my 2-year-old nephew 5 years ago. I've been preparing for my baby shower. Kevina asked who would be there. Upon hearing that my 2-year-old nephew would be there, she said, I haven't seen him since your wedding 5 years ago. Me, he's 2. You've never met him? Her, yes I did, at your wedding. He was the ring bearer. Me, my wedding was 5 years ago. He's 2. Her, he was the ring bearer. Me, no, that was my cousin. Her, no, it was your nephew. Me, I only have one nephew and he wasn't born when I got married. The ring bearer was my cousin. Her, your other nephew then? Me, I only have one. Bust out a picture of my cousin. This boy is my cousin. Her, no, that's your nephew, the ring bearer. I don't know what finally convinced her, but this went on for another 5 minutes. Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure they know. No, it was your nephew. No, it wasn't. It's like when somebody tries to tell you that you said something that you didn't say. It's like, I'm pretty sure I know what I said because I said it. My friend's wife is a Kevin. He told his wife about an article that he read about people in Siberia digging up frozen mammoth tusks and selling them. Her, that's terrible. Him, why is it terrible? They'll sell all the frozen ones and then people will start killing mammoths for their tusks and then pretty soon they'll be extinct. Boy, have I got some news for you. Kevin would like to know which ingredient in carrots my boyfriend is allergic to. No way. About a month and a half ago, my boyfriend came to visit me at school. He was there for lunch too, and somehow carrots were brought up. So he said, oh, I'm allergic to carrots. The Kevin in question then asked him, what do they put in carrots that you're allergic to? It still gets brought up to this day. Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's the carrot in the carrot. Apparently it's a certain protein that's in carrots or something. So yeah, like it kind of does make sense, but the way they said it was so funny. What are they putting in these things? Kevina buys a wireless computer. This is yet another story about a Kevina that I had the displeasure of knowing. Apart from going camping alone and using her phone as a flashlight, this is one of the stupidest things she's ever done. This happened about 4 years ago. Kevina was thinking about buying a laptop because she wanted to use a computer wirelessly instead of her desktop PC. She asked me for my opinion about what to get. I'm not an expert when it comes to PCs and laptops, but I have a good understanding about it. I'd been friends with Kevina for about 3 years at this point, and I knew that she wasn't the smartest knife in the drawer, so part of me was dreading this. Did they mean to say smartest knife in the drawer just then? It's sharpest knife in the drawer, isn't it? But on the other hand, I wanted to see how this would play out. Kevina, I'm thinking about buying a wireless computer. What do you think I should get? Me, wireless computer. Oh, like a laptop? Kevina, yeah, a laptop, but it has to be wireless. Me trying to make sure I was on the same page as her. You can use a laptop wirelessly, but it still needs to be plugged in to charge. Kevina, plugged in? I'm buying a wireless laptop. She was saying wireless loudly and slowly as if I didn't understand the word. Me giving up on trying to understand what she was getting at, knowing from past experience that it's like talking to a brick wall. Okay then, what do you want to use it for and what's your budget? Well, I want to use the internet, play video games and do some video editing, so it needs to work fast. I can only afford about 300 Australian dollars. Me, you'd be hard pressed to get a new laptop that does all that for under 900. You might find a used one for that price, but I doubt it would be much good. My laptop costs 4 grand and it does everything I need it to. Kevina, can I just have yours then? What? No, sorry. This conversation went on for well over 30 minutes with her debating to me about the price and not understanding why I don't just give her mine because that's what good friends do. She ended up leaving saying that she'd figure it out herself. You can't actually expect your friend to give you a 4 grand laptop, can ya? A few days later, I got a call from Kevina. She was frantic. Hey, Kevina, what's up? Kevina, I bought a wireless laptop yesterday and it stopped working. How do I fix this? Well, what have you been doing on it? Have you downloaded something that you shouldn't? What's on the screen now? Kevina, it's black on the screen. I turned it on when I got home and set it up. It was working fine last night, but when I went to check it this morning, it wouldn't turn on. Oh, it's gone flat, hasn't it? Okay, don't panic. Bring it to my place and I'll have a look at it. Bring the box too. Kevina lived 2 blocks away, so she was over 10 minutes later. She only had the laptop with her, but no charger. I had a feeling that it was just flat, but I tried turning it on just in case. Nothing. nothing. Me, where's everything else it came with? Kevina, this is all that was in the box. Me, where's the box? Kevina, I didn't think I needed the box, so I threw it out. Please tell me you kept the charger. Bin collection was last night. Kevina, what charger? I bought a wireless laptop. Yeah, but wireless doesn't mean cordless. It just means that if it's charged, you can use it without the charger until the battery goes flat. What are you talking about? The man at the store said it was wireless. Me internally facepalming. It's the same as your phone. If you don't charge it, it goes flat. Which is what happened here. You need to charge it. Kevina, not listening to the reason. I'll just go buy a new battery. This one's probably broken. Do you have a spare battery? Me, a new battery? Do you know what a computer battery looks like? They don't just sell them cheap at the store like remote control batteries. They're expensive. Kevina gives a blank stare. Me, you needed that box. It has the charger, the instructions, and the warranty information. But I didn't need the box. I only needed the laptop. This is supposed to be wireless. And once again, saying wireless by emphasizing every syllable. At this point, I gave up trying to explain it to her, and she never asked me about computers after that, and I still don't understand where her logic was coming from. I wonder if she ever got a charger. Who knows? Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, but come on, it's meant to be wireless, so I shouldn't need to charge it. And the fact that they still didn't understand this after you explained it so many different times is kind of amazing. The next one is called Cigarettes Are Good For You. I worked with a Kevin at a pizza shop in high school. Super nice dude, funny, but the man was dumb as rocks, which in part contributed to why he was funny, I guess. One afternoon, we're in the middle afternoon lull of the day, so a couple of us go outside to smoke a cigarette. Our boss comes out as always, tries to give some fatherly advice, sees us all smoking and goes, I don't know why you guys do that crap. It's terrible for you. This Kevin of ours goes, nah man, it's totally good for you. We all think he's trying to make a funny retort to try and deflect the obvious critic from our boss, so we all laugh a little. No fooling, this kid hears our laugh and goes, no, I'm serious. Cigarettes are good for your bones. They have like some sort of calcium and stuff in them. The boy was dead serious. It took probably 3 weeks of us bringing in research and medical books to show him that cigarettes are not good for your bones. Hoping that he's okay out there in the big wide world. Bless his soul. Oh my god. I feel like the only way you'd think this is somebody said it to you as a joke, but you thought they were being serious. How else would you think that cigarettes are good for you? Kevin doesn't understand what's on the sandwich that's named after its ingredients. I used to work at a sandwich shop that's devil's lettuce themed, so this could perhaps be blamed on too much recreational activity, but my favorite call I ever got went like this. Kevin, what's your cheapest sandwich? Me, our peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Kevin, okay, what's on that? Me, peanut butter and jelly. It would have been one thing if he asked if anything else or extra comes on it, but like really, LMAO? Yeah, it's literally all in the name. The name of it is the ingredients. That's so funny. Kevina invites the whole company's kids to Netflix and chill with her. Kevina works in HR. Why is it that no matter where I work, HR is the most clueless person in the company? I work at a privately owned company of about 300 people. Everything the owner's kids need, phones, computers, etc., are billed to the company, and technically company property, so it isn't uncommon for someone at the company to have a phone or a computer that was once used by the owner's kids in some way. In this situation, the owner's college-age kid wanted a new computer, so the 6-month-old computer the kid had been using previously got returned to the company. There was no need for it in the company, so the next action is for HR to try to sell it at a discount to any employee who wants it. I'm paraphrasing, but this was essentially the content of the company-wide email from HR. Does anyone have a college-age child who wants to Netflix and chill? If so, send your kid my contact information. I have a nice computer in my office for that. Obviously, this lady didn't know what Netflix and chill means. She was so embarrassed that she didn't leave her office for a week. The day after a company-wide meeting on not opening spam emails and reporting suspicious behavior, she sent me an email with the subject, "Look what you did," to the entire company, in reference to the donation we made to a charity when we paid $1 each for a special jeans day. Tons of people reported the email to IT, thinking that she got hacked. At like 11 last night, she sent out an email to everyone in the office with the subject, "Oh my god, Jason," because she was in a meeting way earlier that day where a JSON file was talked about for like a minute. JSON is a file format that programmers use, and for some reason she read up on it and emailed a bunch of us in her confusion. No one in the office is named Jason. I just talked to our CTO and several people have already verbally asked him if it's a spam email or just Kevina being herself. God, that's hilarious. Like, hey guys, do you want to Netflix and chill? Have this laptop. Yeah, not actually what that means. Okay, let's read one more. Kevina doesn't understand war or electricity or bumblebees. I worked with an interesting Kevina, technically well educated with a master's degree, but some of the things she said were interesting. Sitting in the office, we're all typing away, getting on with things. Out of the blue, Kevina says, guys, imagine that we were in the war. I'm confused. What do you mean, Kevina? Like we are as we are right now, working at our desk, typing away, but it's World War II and the bombs are going off outside? I'm even more confused. So, working on our computers during World War II, Kevina enthusiastically mistaking my confusion for understanding. Yeah, can you imagine? Me, Kevina, there weren't computers like this during World War II. Kevina, yeah, computers were invented when electricity was invented in the early 1600s. Keep up? Wow, they actually told you to keep up? I'm completely dumbfounded. Bonus story, we're all at an outdoor bar having afternoon drinks. Kevina suddenly screams and ducks. We all look around and she shouts, did you guys not see that giant seagull dive at me? Patiently as I could, I say, Kevina, a seagull didn't dive at you. A bumblebee flew past you. Her response, oh yeah, I always get those two mixed up. What? No, I feel bad for laughing, but what do you mean? Yeah, no, let's read one more. I'm addicted to reading these. How do you get bumblebees and seagulls mixed up? You don't, do ya? A Kevin doesn't realize how Google works. So I've known a Kevin for quite some time now. He's genuinely a nice guy, but can be clueless at the same time. Kevin is also not the brightest when it comes to technology. I learnt this after this experience. A couple of days ago, Kevin messaged me asking me why he didn't receive a forgotten password email. I asked him some questions such as, did you send the email to the right account? Just trying to help him out. Kevin's response went something like this. Well, I signed up with my Google account and I did the steps. Then it sent an email, but since I used my Google account and not my email account, I can't change my password. I was confused at first and then I realized Kevin doesn't know that Gmail is a part of Google. Kevin had made a separate account for every different service Google has to offer, like Docs and Gmail and YouTube, etc. The reason he wasn't receiving an email was because he was waiting for an email for an entirely different account. I tried to explain to him that's not how it worked, yet he insisted that he was right. His argument was literally, the G in Gmail doesn't stand for Google, it stands for global. You should know this since your dad's in IT. I just hung up and contemplated life. Okay, now I feel like that's enough for today, guys. That was so fun. I love this subreddit so much. But yeah, time for something wholesome. I just want this lady to succeed with every fiber of my being. Wanted to borrow an orange cat for 24 to 48 hours, to have a lasagna dinner with Garfield, loving 4-year-old and 2-year-old children, will return cat happy and cared for. Cat will not be required to eat lasagna. Please, no feral cats, and please take your cat back at the end. I'm not looking to adopt. Thank you. An increasingly desperate but not crazy mum of 2, with no friends that own an orange cat. Oh yeah, I hope they find somebody who does this. I'd let you borrow Chico, but I don't know where you are. He looks a lot like Garfield. That's so adorable though. Good luck with this. Hello, my wonderful grandson. I made too much chocolate sheet cake and I'll be delivering you some today. Grandma, I love you, but that's 2 hours of driving. You don't have to do that. Nonsense. And they deliver him some sheet cake. Oh, that's so beautiful. Grandparents are the best. 2018 on Twitter. Stan Lee. I think Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man. He's the exact height and age I envisioned when I first wrote Spider-Man. Spidey was never supposed to be too large. How is my friend Tom doing? And then Tom Holland. Thank you very much, Stan. It all started with you, sir. I look forward to catching up soon, bud. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, very wholesome. And on that note, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did, you know what to do. Make sure you like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And the comment of the day today goes to Yef122. Gets notification for Vincey's new creepy asterisk video. Clicks immediately and cutely. Ooh woo. Looks sadly at all the craziness. Hits the like button immediately. Oh, thank you for the support, Yef122. I really appreciate it. I absolutely love reading the comments on the creepy asterisk episodes. You guys always leave the funniest comments. So yeah, thank you for not only the support, but for leaving such awesome comments. And yeah, guys, I hope you had a wonderful time today. This subreddit is so fun. I'm already excited for the next episode. And with that being said, make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!